If you ever heard the quote, life will break you sooner or later, well, it is high time you realized, or at least you got into the knowledge that, well, basically, life does not break who you truly are, life only breaks who you think you are. Now, this is a point that has crossed my mind not long ago, and as a realization, it felt really powerful. As I've been saying in previous videos, the point is, when we are born, we are technically nothing. And, well, we have no emotional attachments, we have no physical attachments, we don't have any knowledge whatsoever about this world. Sure, the only thing we come into this world is our karma, but that is something different, right? It is a different level of knowledge, and that knowledge also requires a certain level of waking up in order to acquire that, in order to have that understanding, right? There will be senses within each and every being who will guide them, but the point about life is life will always break that which you think you are. Now, thinking that you are someone is just an illusion because you have identified yourself with a concept. Concepts are ultimately creations of humanity. We have created concepts in order to communicate faster, to communicate better, right? Knowledge is a set of constructs, right? Everything that we speak, right? Communication, languages, right? All the division, all the barriers, countries and the such, those are just concepts. They are just meaning that we are giving too much power nowadays because they give a certain sense of comfort, right? As I said in another video, the point is the mind will always give the most comfort, right, to those who feed it the most. The more you feed the mind, the more it can distract you with. And that is why many people are stuck in the mind, because they're constantly set on a software that simply feeds the mind constantly, right? When people slip back into unconsciousness, they go back into the power of that software that simply puts their mind to create things, right? But that's how the mind works. The mind can only create. You cannot shut down the mind. It will shut down itself when you will leave the body, right? That's the only moment when you shut the mind down. The simple point is stop feeding the mind, right? Because once you feed the mind, the point is whatever you are feeding the mind comes from the outside. So the point is everything is kind of ultimately an accumulation. The knowledge that you have is nothing else than sources from the outside, right? Your language, you didn't come on this world by knowing that knowledge, right? You don't know anything. You don't know any language. You learn it in time, right? You learn it from outside sources. Even creation, right? Inspiration, right? Divine inspiration is still an outside source, right? It just flows through everyone the way it can, and some people are more perceptive, and well, they will create more if they so allow, right? You have to allow those forces to flow through you, and you will create constantly, right? If you allow those forces to flow through you. So the point is, everything is an outside source. This world has been designed in such a way that it always distracts you because it always wants your attention, right? It wants your attention outside, and when you forget to look inside, you constantly create attachments towards so many things. Ultimately, you become the greatest prisoner when you simply identify yourself with things. And that's why you have so many people being fanatics over different ideas. But ultimately, all the ideas in this world are nothing else than meaning. Meaning is a self-destruction button. If you give it too much power, it can create a lot of destruction. Think about religion and the destructive impacts that it had, right? Because of people's ignorance and because of people being kept as ignorance, right? Think of so many other things, right? But ignorance ultimately is the root of all evil, right? So the point is, when you become more ignorant, right? When you become more and more ignorant, right? The only way you can do that is by embracing more and more illusions. The more illusions you embrace, well, unfortunately, the more you will suffer, because suffering is the only guide of ignorant people, right? So the point is, the more you accumulate, the more you identify with those accumulations, and you will suffer. Not because God wants that, because life works in that way. Life wants you to be free. We came here to be free, to breathe in clean air, not to listen to some fuckers who want to rule the world and have your children wear face masks, well, 24/7. Because, well, If some crazy people are there ruling the world, you don't have to be one to simply fall for their bidding, right? Now, of course, the point is people can actually embrace that if they so want. So many people are so lost, so twisted, that they embrace suffering as the only normal. The bigger problem is they will impose that on their children as well. Corrupting children's minds into suffering is one of the greatest crimes against humanity, because a child is a pure life, and, well, stockpiling them with your own shit, well, that's not a way to go, right? You're creating so much karma in your life, and you're gonna take so many more lifetimes to simply rid yourself of that karma. That is why the problem is people are always focusing outwards because they are afraid of that which they truly are. And that is nothing. One is simply nothing. It may sound horrible to the ego mind, right? That, you are nothing, because the ego always wants titles, always wants fame, always wants to be the center of attention. But that is the greatest problem. If people choose to live in the Manipura chakra, well, that is not necessarily the best thing. That chakra is good for self-power, right? For more like for a certain idea of esteem, not self-esteem, because you don't want to worship yourself, right? You call it yourself, you don't call it you, right? Yourself is yours, but it is not you. It is just a set of accumulations, other people's ideas, points of view, visions, and, well, you have accepted them unwillingly, and at times willingly, yes, because they made some sense of logical coherence, right? But ultimately, there is one simple point, and you may run away from this truth as much as you want, but ultimately, the point is all roads lead to the truth. So all people, irrespective of how astray they are, they will simply come back to the truth. And the truth is, well, you are nothing. The point of spirituality is to realize that you are technically nothing. And the aspect of spirituality is ridding yourself of who you think you are, right? Ridding yourself of your personality, of all the karma you have built around selves and the such. So ultimately, life cannot break who you are. You just have been taught to have some stupid attachments, right? Some stupid expectations. And the expectation means attachment to a certain outcome. And obviously, things will not happen, or very extremely rarely will happen the way you want them to happen. So the point is, well, that's how things will be. They will happen to you in different ways, and only who you think you are shall fail, only who you think you are shall suffer. If you take a closer look around, if you see wise people, whatever life throws at them, they don't break because they have learned how to bend. Whatever comes in their life, they will flow. They may get angry because anger is still something good and it is an emotion that can be harnessed, but it needs a lot of discipline to harness emotions like that and to get great strength from those, but one needs a lot of training for that. Still, life is all about living the flow, realizing that basically every attachment in this life is irrelevant, right? So all this being said, just remember, life is all about flowing, but you cannot flow with identification, because the more you identify yourself with others, you're creating more and more rigid structure. The more rigid you are, the less you simply can vibrate with life, the less you are capable to manifest things, right? Because energies that allow manifesting things, dreams, ideas, whatever, they cannot simply flow through structure. Because every time you create identification, you create structure. Structures are just like dams who will prevent you from achieving things that you want. They will always keep you stuck, just like anchors that do not allow a ship to sail free. All this being said, you are appreciated. Take care of yourselves. Ferenc Board signing out.